there. Thank you for joining me for today's live video in the self-massage series. I want to talk about considering our own posture, right? We've talked about this a little bit in my Being in Your Feet videos, and that's where I'm going to start today, is considering how your feet line up. Right? I'm next to a mirror because looking at ourselves in the mirror can be super helpful to see what's going on, because as we get used to things through postural practices, right? Anything we do is a practice. Things can feel right when actually we're a little bit twisted, right? We just get used to that one discomfort or area of tension, and actually can feel weird when it first goes away, though it usually does feel better. So we're gonna look at our feet and make sure that our toes are even across and that our feet are about shoulder width apart. Because we want to align, we want our bony protrusions, right? Those are guidelines in so many ways, on our shoulder, our knees, and our ankles to be pretty closely in alignment. And like every part of our physiology, it's a little bit different for all of us. And I want you to stay where you're comfortable. So something really hurts, right? Just push against the boundary, but staying in that range of comfort, where on that 0 to 10 scale, it's like usually a 3 or 4. That is a gentle push against our boundary that encourages us to shift, to relax, to grow, to change, without making us like tense up to get through it. So with our feet in straight back and forth and our toes even, we're gonna do with that pretty low squat with our knees to kind of get an idea of where that posture is. I mean, I'm not like super low, but it's more than just a soft bend in the knees, because I find that when we're practicing posture, most of our postures are a little bit off, if not a lot off. And when we're practicing anything, I find that exaggerating it can just help us create and support the new habit that we really want. So feet straight up and down, about shoulder width apart, and our toes lined up straight across. Our knees bent on top of them. And then we're going to think about where our hips are, right? Just considering, and you can shift. So what I'm doing here is just shifting my hips backwards and forward to kind of search for what feels good, what feels tight. Because a lot of our hips, it's normal for our hips to get rotated or tilted in one direction or the other. So just simple shifting and playing with it will give you an understanding, especially with this great base of support underneath you, give you an understanding of what's tight, what could use attention, in which case you can go to one of the other self-massage videos and give that area some attention, and what's maybe tilted or adjusted and where it would feel really good. Okay, so after playing with your hips a little bit, you're going to allow them to settle into the place that feels comfortable for them, because again, this is a practice and our bodies are so amazing that when we offer them the opportunity to feel better, they will largely take it on their own. So, all right, setting my feet back up, bending my knees, I've played with my hips, and now moving up to my sternum. Now, a lot of times we'll notice as people that our shoulders are a little forward, and then we'll try to just shove them back. That can be useful, right, for different things. But for really creating a better posture, what I find is more useful is lifting from the sternum. So our breastbone right here, we have all of these great muscles in our rib cage and our diaphragm, right? They all expand, but we often underutilize them. So this is one of those things that helps with practice. We're going to lift the breastbone up, lift the sternum up. So the difference is if I lift my sternum up, then my head kind of falls into alignment over my shoulders. If I just relax, right, and push my shoulders back, then my head can still like just hang out forward, right? So lifting from the breastbone allows and invites the body to adjust all of it at once. Right, so one more time, the difference is lifting from the sternum or pushing the shoulders back. And this just gives a more full alignment and movement. So once we're in this position with our feet flat, straight forward, toes in alignment, our knees over our feet, our hips over our knees, right? We've played with that a little bit. And our sternum lifted. Then we have this nice up and down alignment. And you can play with it, right? From this position, just like we were playing with our hips, just do some gentle movement in your shoulders, in your head, in your neck, and get a sense of what is tight, what feels like it needs more support in this position. We're just doing gentle playing with different directions. And so not only is this a practice in and of itself, it can also be a really informative way to know which muscles are actually tight and which are the ones that are just complaining because they've been working too hard. And while they still need attention, we don't want to loosen them further because we don't want to encourage them to stretch even further when they're already hyperextended. One of my favorite ways to do this, to explore this, is through the exercise that I call being in your feet, which I have a few dedicated videos about, and I've mentioned it in other videos as well. But from this position of alignment, simply rocking up onto our toes and rocking back onto our heels. Again, staying in that range of comfort and just simply practicing awareness. Now, this is great because it gets the lymphatic system flowing. One of our best pumps for our lymphatic system is in our feet, also our hands, right? So this motion in our hands will pump our arms and shoulders. But the ones in our feet are so great because if we're walking at all, part of why walking is such a great exercise, everything gets flushed out and invites our lymphatic system to really support us. So just doing this already will loosen up some muscles and will give you a cue and will loosen up those areas that feel crunchy, because that is typically lymphatic fluid that has kind of gotten stagnant because there's like a block in the channel it would normally flow through. All right. So this is something that outside of pandemics, I love to do waiting in line or just when I'm talking to people on the street. But right now I'm doing it a lot in front of my sink when I'm doing my dishes. Or just, it's an easy one to slip in there and do lots of times, right? And then to kind of check in with our head and neck, you want to really make sure, because so many of our anterior neck muscles come up, attach along our jaw, behind our ears, at the base of our skull, and also down here. So when we lift the breastbone, we're already giving them more space. And from this position, gently and slowly turning the head to one side, and then gently and slowly back to center with a pause. And then to the other side. Again, and then back to center. And it just gives you a great way to check in with what all of these muscles are doing. You can do some gentle shoulder rolls, backward and forward. And then some shifting of your weight from one leg to center to the other to center. And we can also do this seated, right? So just imagine that my squat is lower because I'm on a chair. And then I can think still about whether my breastbone is lifted. In this case, in a chair, my seat bones become my base. And so I want to make sure that they're square and comfortable, and simply leaning forward, leaning back to one side, and then to the other. You always want to give yourself that break at center to just check back in and make sure anything that you are feeling or that is asking for attention isn't asking because of what you just did, right? Because you've given it that break in between. Thank you for joining me for this video on exploring our posture. And I hope these tips and techniques are super supportive for helping you find out how your posture can improve and how you can feel better. And check out the other self-massage videos if you did feel an area that wants extra attention, because I'm sure you'll find some support. I love you. I love me. I love us. I'll see you soon.